Hello, I'm Anna Amelia from North East Animal Rights, and we are doing another one of our Saturday Spotlight interviews. We talk about veganism not being just about the food, but obviously food is a really important part of veganism, because everybody needs food. So with that in mind, today we have vegan pastry chef Danielle Maupertuis. So welcome, Danielle, and thank you very much for agreeing to do this for us.
Hello, so my name is Danielle. I'm very pleased to join you for this little chat and talking about vegan desserts, easy to make, yummy and fantastic looking.
Excellent. And of course, after we've had our chat, you're going to be making a delicious recipe for us as well. And we'll put the ingredients and the recipe online. So that's another way of helping people make veganism accessible to people. So we're going to go into the questions now. So the first one is, can you tell me about your vegan journey and what was it that stirred you to become a vegan and make the change?
Well, two things. First, I always have been very sensitive towards the cruelty against animals. I mean, I saw shows on TV. I really, I can't stand. And when my grandson was about 7, 8 years old for his Christmas, I offered him to adopt a jaguar through the Worldwide Fund. So he adopted this animal. We went to the zoo in Edinburgh together because there were many species in danger over there, and it started from there. And secondly, as a pastry chef, I mean, since let's say a few years ago, when I had a vegan guest coming to the hotel, because I worked as executive pastry chef in 5-star hotels in the UK, we didn't have any decent choice to offer apart from a fruit salad. And this was frustrating for the guest and for myself because I love pastry. So I decided to create my own range of vegan desserts.
Yeah. So we know that you were a chef before you became vegan. So what problems did you come across, in terms of perception of plant-based food? Sometimes people say it's very boring, and also the alternative ingredients and the practicalities of recipes, of adapting recipes to make them into what you want to produce.
Well, when I started, let's say 3 years ago, the main vegan substitutes in pastry were already available. The butter, the eggs, the milk, the creams, etc. So it was not too difficult. But certain recipes were difficult, mainly the recipes using eggs, mainly choux pastry, crème brûlée, etc. But nowadays, the research with concerning vegan ingredients has made a tremendous progress. So we can now find double cream plant-based, which allows us to make a very light desserts. Now we have vegan blogs that allows us to make a perfect pastry. So we don't have any main challenge anymore, apart from some desserts still difficult. But my main concern is the following. Most of the people ask us to transpose non-vegan desserts into a vegan version, and this sometimes is difficult. Choux, éclair, profiterole, crème brûlée, tiramisu. And when, for instance, you see a vegan crème brûlée recipe in a book using coconut cream, I'm sorry, this is not a crème brûlée. So why don't we explore the fantastic richness of plant-based pastry? How to use plants, herbs, flowers in vegan pastry. I prepare a course for the RHS talking about this. Why don't we discover all these new flowers? Why don't we go for some fantastic Japanese recipes, with dry beans, rice? I mean, it's infinite.
Yeah. So what you're saying really is, I mean, we say this with things like cheese, because people are they're always trying to reproduce or get that to the same taste. And we say that if something tastes good, that's enough. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. So maybe, you know, kind of an experiment. It's an opportunity to experiment with all of the different things out there, rather than keep on trying to recreate the same old tired things, I suppose. Does that seem fair?
Exactly my point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you talked about sort of you know, transposed and traditional recipes, and the main stumbling blocks, you know, when you talked about tiramisu and creme brulees and that sort of the sorts of desserts. One of the things that we found difficulty with, I mean, obviously you've said that plant milks have been around for quite some time, as have the, you know, the margarines, the butters have been around, but eggs are more difficult. We know that aquafaba, which is this bizarre sort of concept of bean juice, which is just amazing, and I don't know who was the first person who thought of that. But they were an absolute genius.
I really do agree.
I mean, it kind of like blows your mind when you think, who, you know, what sort of person actually thought about using that for you know. So how do you sort of like, how are you able to, you know, kind of get the, you know, what you would get from eggs, the binding agents, and, you know, or do you just go completely away from them?
Well, concerning the eggs first, I'm quite suspicious about all the egg replacers you now see coming regularly in the market. They are complicated, so why don't we go for natural egg replacers like bananas, avocados, cashew butter, flax seeds, some recipes like the one I'm going to show you later on, like a sponge, don't even need to have egg replaced. We just use oil and milk alternative. We just bake 5 minutes longer. So I say again, apart from recipes using exclusively egg yolks, it's not an issue anymore.
Yeah. So I've noticed you've got your book on the side there, Vegans Deserve Better Than a Fruit Salad. I mean, the title of that made me laugh, because we all know as vegans, that's something which we put up for many years. You know, you go to an event and you tell them well ahead that you're vegan, and they give you a starter, which is decent. You get a main course, which is decent, and then they fall flat on the dessert. You know, they trundle out a fruit salad and kind of like, voila, this is this brilliant dessert, and you just think how lazy, how boring. So why has that been the case for so long? Do you think that you know, why can't non-plant-based chefs, why can't they provide a full 3-course meal, including a dessert?
Well, I'm sorry to say, but even in non-vegan restaurants, pastry is very often the part poor of a menu.
Yeah.
For instance, you have brownies, quite heavy. I'm not saying they are bad. I'm just saying there is a lack of research, a lack of creativity. So where do you find amazing and interesting desserts? In fine dining menus and fine dining restaurants. But I'm sorry to say, there is no vegan fine dining restaurants actually in the UK. Maybe 1 or 2 exceptions. This is an issue, and I'm working on this because one of my goals is to create and to promote vegan fine dining desserts. And the second reason, of course, is the lack of training. I don't know any school in the UK where you can learn how to become a professional vegan pastry chef. You have all these online courses now, but this is not serious.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, actually, because I think the pastry element is a very, very different set of skills and a very different set of you know, creativity. I mean, I feel as if I'm okay making savoury things, stews, hot pots, you know, that sort of thing. But when it comes to specifically making pastry, I think it's very much it's almost like a science experiment, isn't it? It's very, very scientific.
Well, it has to be precise. This I do agree, but I'm convinced the main and the most important thing when you go for vegan baking or baking in general is self-confidence.
Yeah.
A recipe is not difficult. No, you follow a recipe step by step, even if it's difficult, you have the explanation. But the self-confidence is the key of your success and your progress.
Yeah, you're right. I have the confidence to make the savoury stuff, but the pastry, the sweets, the desserts, I don't have the confidence. I kind of think, oh, where have I gone wrong? And you see something which is flat or hasn't risen properly, and you know. But you're right. It is. I suppose it's about practice, isn't it? Practice following the recipes.
Yes. Yeah. Practice sharing, and let's say from the very beginning, my challenge was and still is to convince people that they are easy to make.
Yeah.
And yummy. Yeah. And great looking. Yeah.
So if you've been a pastry chef, you're constantly exploring new recipes and ingredients. So when we go to an omni place where we kind of, where we have plant-based alternatives there, along with the omni, the meat-based meals, why do you think we are met with such resistance and lack of creativity? Do you think there's a mindset almost that that the chefs feel insulted, that we're asking for different things which aren't on the menu, or asking to do things which they don't want to produce?
Well, first, I would say that it's kind of a part of human nature to have some fear towards new things, fear of taking risks, experimenting. Secondly, there was indeed kind of a resistance from the chefs in the beginning, but to be honest, the first steps of a vegan cuisine, or at least a vegan baking, were really not convincing and appealing. We had heavy cakes and no presentation, so this was an issue. But you're right. For instance, so when I was working in the latest 5-star hotel, I went to the chef with a new dessert. I said, "Hello, chef, I made a new vegan dessert." Oh, but then after that, I said, "Hello, chef, I made a new dessert. What do you think?" "Oh, not too bad. Oh, by the way, it's vegan." So this was the tactic. And also, you have to know that in 90% of the kitchen, a day in a kitchen is absolutely crazy, stressful, busy. We have breakfast, we have lunch, we have afternoon tea, we have dinner, we have events, we have weddings, etc., VIPs. So you don't really have time to isolate yourself in a quiet part of the kitchen to experiment and create new recipes. This is one of the reasons I quit from my job. I had no time. But nowadays, because of the increasing power of veganism, now the chefs really can't ignore it anymore. But there is still a lot to do. And again, training.
Yeah. So if you mentioned doing events there, so if you were creating a dessert for a wedding breakfast, what would you create? And rather than doing two separate ones, what would you create which would be equally acceptable, or sort of for vegans and non-vegans to have? What would you suggest?
Oh, it would be more than acceptable. I would suggest my version of the classical opera cake, which is, a French dessert with almond sponge, coffee, and chocolate. So I would suggest an exotic version of this with pistachio sponge, with a very light and fluffy passion fruit mousseline cream, and with a raspberry jelly. It's absolutely delicious. You can make in big trays, big quantities. So it's very precious for chefs, for big numbers, for catering. It's perfect.
Yeah. Well, that's the way to go, isn't it? It's the way to go is to make, instead of thinking I've got 5 vegans at a wedding party and 45 non-vegans, surely it's the same with the starters. If you have like a soup, surely to me it's about making something which everyone can eat, rather than having so many. If you're saying it's so busy obviously in the kitchen, to me it makes more sense to create something which more people can eat, rather than having to do 2 separate, maybe 5 courses and you're doing 3 courses instead of that. It just makes a bit more sense. So when you're at home, obviously you're not going to be creating you know, pastries all the time? And what's your comfort food? What do you go to when you just want something which is really, really quick?
The quickest one, maybe apart from the shortbread, is the eaten mess. Eaten mess is so easy to make. You have your meringue that you can now make very easily with ready to use aquafaba. You do your meringue in advance. You put in an airtight a box so you can keep 1 or 2 days. You have now this whippable plant-based cream, so you just whip your cream. You add some strawberries. Eventually, a strawberry coulis you can buy already in the supermarket. Total of the dessert, 5 minutes, 12 seconds. That's it.
Ooh, that sounds absolutely delicious. I love eating mess. I love it. I love meringues and I love eating mess. And I have actually experimented. I tried to make a pavlova, but my meringue was a little bit on the kind of stuck to the bottom. So
this is another story. This is a little technical detail. When you were using aquafaba, you talked about it. You really have to reduce it. So it means that you have to reduce on the hop.
Yeah.
About 40%, so it gets the consistency of an egg white, and then it works perfectly.
Right. Okay, I'll try that again.
Was a little bit.
well, my pavlova turned into an eating mess because it all ended up broken up, so it was fine. It tasted fine, it just didn't look very good. So what are the 3 ingredients that you couldn't live without? I mean, whether it's the savoury ingredients or sweet ingredients?
Well, I will talk about sweet ingredients. We need, of course, we talked about these faba that you can find in the supermarket, the oats, very convenient. Secondly, the vegan thickener for all the creams, mousses, etc., called agar powder. Now available in the supermarkets as well. And the third one are, of course, all our dairy-free products, vegan block, milk alternative, cream alternative, cream cheese, etc.
Right. So what's next for you? I mean, you're very, very busy. You've got a book out. You're doing events. You do courses. You do consultancies. So what's next for you?
Well, as I said before, working and promoting on vegan fine dining desserts is one of my goals. I really want to bring up the standards and introduce us to the fantastic world of culinary awards, you know, the Rosette, the Michelin stars, and I'm working on a second cookbook to help to promote fine dining desserts. This is one thing. The second thing is I really would like to create a link, a bridge between vegan cuisine, vegan baking, and let's say the social cultural life. For instance, I give demos and I prepare a course how to use plants, flowers, and herbs in vegan pastry, and I present this in the RHS flower shows. And this for me is a very important step for veganism. And the last thing is I would like us to have a regular show on a popular channel on TV about vegan cuisine. If it's not me, it will be somebody else, but it has to happen. Voila.
Voila, I agree. I think it's about normalizing veganism, isn't it? And you're right. We've had a number of different programs who, where they explore vegan, plant-based cooking and baking, but they don't kind of like keep them on as like regular things, like the Saturday morning cooking shows. They don't. I mean, you're right about having a regular thing all the way through. So it's kind of normalizing it. That's what we need to do, and that's actually a form of activism in itself, because you are normalizing veganism and bringing it mainstream. And the more people who realize how easy it is and how accessible it is, the better it is for the animals, the better it is for the planet and for all of us as well. So We're going to go over, we're going to pause now because you're going to take us into a delicious recipe. You're going to show us how to do this. So if I pause this video for a moment and give you an opportunity to get yourself set up, and then we'll reconvene, and then we'll go straight to you doing the recipe. Is that okay?
That's perfect. Thank you very much.
Right, I'll pause it for a moment then. So now we're back in the kitchen with Danielle, and Danielle is going to show us how to make a delicious dessert. We're also going to put the ingredients and the recipe for you to follow online when we air the interview as well. So I'm going to hand straight over to Danielle, and you can see what she's going to be making today.
So hello again. I'm going to present you today a French classical strawberry cake called le Fraisier. As you see, this is a perfect combination of different flavors and textures. I have a sweet pastry base at the bottom. I have some strawberries bringing some freshness. Inside, I have a Victoria sponge that will bring some smoothness. I have a very light and a fluffy cream called the mousseline, which is just a custard lightened with a little bit of vegan alternative butter. And for the decoration, I have some marzipan and strawberries and some little flowers. So let's start. Because of restrictions of time, I prepared the sweet pastry already. You have the recipe detailed online, but this is just a vegan block with some sugar that you stir until it becomes fluffy. You add a little bit of milk alternative, and you add your flour, and that's it. Very easy to make. You can also give a gluten-free version. In that case, you add a little bit of xanthan gum. So, assuming the sweet pastry base is a sponge. Alors now, there is nothing easier than a Victoria sponge. I have here, I made a small recipe for this presentation, if you don't mind. I have here the liquids, which are 50 milliliters of milk alternative and 20 milliliters of rapeseed oil. I used coconut milk because the taste is quite neutral, and rapeseed oil is also recommended because of his health benefits, and also for his light and neutral taste. So to wet elements, what do I add? I have here some flour. I have to check the recipe because it's a small quantity, 50 grams of flour. I'm gonna make it a little bit lighter by adding a quarter of a teaspoon of baking powder, like so. And again, if you want to make a gluten-free version, it's exactly the same, but you add a quarter of a teaspoon of this xanthan gum. It binds all the elements together. Of course, I'm gonna need some sugar. I have here some 30 grams of golden unrefined caster sugar. And when I have all this, poof, everything together. I do apologize, I'm left-handed, but I do my best. All together in my bowl. I don't even need any electric whisk. Poof, I whisk until it's getting smooth, no remaining lumps. That's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's gonna be ready. You see this?
Yeah. Yeah.
No lumps. So I transfer this sponge. By the way, you see, we didn't use any specific egg replacer, and just you have a nice consistency of the sponge. And I'm just gonna transfer in a small tray. This is about 13 by 19 centimeters. I preheated my oven 190 degrees, gas mark 4. Just spread it with a spatula and in the oven, like so. And in the oven for about 12, 15 minutes. So, abracadabra, the magic of vegan pastry. I prepared already some for you. So the sponge is ready. It has cooled down. I put it in the freezer for a few minutes because it's easier to cut. And I'm gonna use it. By the way, this, as you see, is a classical vegan Victoria sponge. And this, just to show you, it's a gluten-free version. You see, it works perfectly well as well. Yeah. So I'm gonna cut a disc of a Victoria sponge, like so, a little bit smaller than my ring, because I need some space for the strawberries, of course. And I'm gonna just put in the middle, like so. And it is time now to go for our cream. So far, so good.
Yeah.
It's easy, right?
It is.
I
hope so. Yeah.
This muslin cream, as I said, is a custard lightened with some vegan blocks. So we're gonna start with the custard. A few steps in this recipe. First, I have here 125 milliliters of my cocoa milk alternative. But I'm gonna keep a little bit of this amount. I don't have to measure, just to be able to mix my dry ingredients. And this milk I'm gonna bring to the boil. So talking about the dry ingredients, I have here 25 grams of sugar, I have 15 grams of a thickener, which is the corn flour. Okay. Eventually, you can add some vanilla, but the most important thing, to replace the egg yolks of a custard, we're going to use this cashew butter. So because I have a smaller quantity, I'm going to use half of a teaspoon, let's say, voila. Something like this. Voilà. A little tip, by the way, about all these nut butters, you know, when you have used them, after a while, they are becoming hard, the oil is coming up, you know, it's difficult to use. So if you just keep them upside down in your cupboard, you don't have this problem. Yeah. Well, it looks a little bit, but it's practical, I mean.
Yeah.
So, a whisk. Doesn't matter if we have a few pieces of cashew butter remaining. This is going to disappear while we finish the cream. let me have a look at our milk. About to be ready. Now, you know, we also eat with the eyes. So if you wish, if you want to give this a little bit of this yellow color, this is optional, of course, you can add a little bit of turmeric. And I can show you it doesn't affect the taste of the cream at all. But this is as you wish. My milk is boiling, as you see. So up, back to my bowl. Give a whisk. And I'm going to bring this back to the hob, medium heat, and stir until it starts bubbling and it's becoming thick. That's it. Voila. So, as I said, abracadabra. I prepared some cream in advance for you. It is now cool down. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use 50 grams of this vegan block, which is, for instance, this one.
Yeah.
The violet, you also have naturally. Yeah. It works better than the vegan spread because it's firmer, so you get nice consistency for the creams, everything. So I'm going to soften this cream and butter. Alternative here. Voila. I'm going to make a little bit of noise. I'm sorry. Voila. And I'm going to add, let's say, 150 grams of my custard, slowly. I usually count 1/3 vegan block and 2/3 of custard, and I mix. You see, it's light, it's fluffy, doesn't fall apart. Let me add a little bit more. Voila. That's it. So let me put my mess away. And I'm going to transfer the muslin in a piping bag, like so, with a small plain nozzle. I'll show you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Voila. And what I'm going to do, easy, I prepared some pieces of strawberries. We just have to make sure they have the same size. Voila.
Yeah.
That's it. So I'll start. 1. You see, I just place them along the ring.
Yeah, it's really starting to take shape now. It looks really, really delicious. My mouth's watering with those strawberries.
Yeah, it's delicious. It's easy to make, and it's nice looking. Voila, last one, not too white. Let's say this one. Yeah, perfect. Voila. Yeah, and now I'm just gonna stick them with a little bit of cream in between, like so. I hope you see.
Yeah. I can see, yeah.
So I just press a little bit of cream between the strawberries first, just to stick them, and then I can pipe some cream in the middle. I can, of course, add some bits of these strawberries I cut because we shouldn't have any wastage.
Yeah.
So if you want to add some pieces of Victoria sponge at this stage, please feel free. Voila. And now I'm going to finish, with the cream, like so. Oh.
It's like a miniature masterpiece.
Now it's easy to make. Voila. And now I'm just going to use my little spatula to flatten, like so. Voila. Voila. And this is it. Now this is going to set, let's say, at least half an hour in the fridge before I take off the ring. And you cut your strawberry, put your little flowers, and you end up with my fraisier.
Yeah.
If you want to call it the Wimbledon cake, it's not a problem with me.
Yeah, it looks absolutely amazing. I mean, what I was quite surprised at there was a couple of ingredients: the nut butter for the egg replacement, and also turmeric. Because obviously, I assume like turmeric obviously has a savoury taste, but you forget that there's so much colour in it as well.
No. It's okay. It's okay. For the green, you can use the matcha powder. For the red, you can use a beetroot powder. No. It's okay.
Yeah, it looks absolutely amazing. So I'm going to ask my group. I'm going to have a competition with my group and see who can do the best version. That's absolutely delightful. I'm going to pause it there for 2 seconds, and so if you just give me a moment.
Yeah.
So that was a first to us. Somebody doing a live recipe was absolutely amazing, and it does look really, really easy to follow, and looks absolutely delicious. So Danielle is going to give some information now about how you can contact her and how you can follow her on social media and get a hold of her for different events. So have you got your information available there? Do you like putting
Yes, absolutely. I have it here ready for you.
That's excellent.
So my website is www.freefromdesserts.com. My Facebook, Free From Desserts as well. My Instagram is my surname, Danielle Maupertuis. I also recently created a Facebook group called, of course, Vegans Deserve Better Than a Fruit Salad, and talking about my book. This one here is available on my website, www.freefromdesserts.com/books, or eventually Amazon or Waterstone, but online. Yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you very much.
It was a pleasure to share my passion for vegan pastry, and I hope I did convince you. They are easy to make, yummy, and look fantastic.
Well,
Really.
you've convinced, I mean, I already knew it was going to be delicious, but you've convinced me it is relatively easy to sort. And I think all those ingredients as well, most of those are going to be in a vegan's cupboard anyway. So it's not as if we have to go out and buy, you know, like really bizarre, strange, hard to access ingredients. And I think we're going to finish on, we agree that vegans do deserve better than a fruit salad. We definitely do. So thank you very much for giving up your time. And we're going to leave you sadly with all the washing up to do. But thank you very much. And to your camera assistant there.
I'm going to ask for some help. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
And to your little assistant behind the camera as well, because we know obviously you had a little bit of help there. But thank you very much. It's been absolutely brilliant talking to you. And we'll be in touch. So this is Anna-Maria from Northeast Animal Rights saying thank you very much to Danielle Maupertuis, the vegan pastry chef, and saying goodbye for now.
Bye-bye. See you soon.